Since 2000, almost half of all homicides in Utah involve domestic violence. Now, the state of Utah is helping survivors with a new state protocol, including the lethality assessment. So joining us now is Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson to talk a little bit about this lethality assessment. Thank you so much for joining us today. So part of the lethality assessment is the questions that these people answer, but the other part is looking into the results that come from it and giving more insight on what we're looking at in Utah. Can you tell us what you guys have found so far?
Well, the lethality assessment is a set of questions that get asked anytime law enforcement comes to a scene of intimate partner violence, which is kind of a subcategory of domestic violence. And these questions help law enforcement understand the risk that the victim has of actually being killed then or in the future. And so what we're looking at is kind of what these scores tell us. Certain scores mean that they're at a high risk of lethality and they have to get connected to domestic violence community service providers that provide some help and support for these victims. So as we're looking at how many lethality assessments have been conducted over the past few months since this law went into effect, we're really astonished at the high level of lethalities and actually at the significantly high level of these assessments that are coming back at a high risk of lethality.
Tell us more about that. What does the data show so far?
Almost 2/3 of the lethality assessments are showing that the victim is at a high risk of being killed. And so those are the ones that have to be connected immediately on scene, or at least law enforcement attempts to connect them to community service providers to help provide that support. Sometimes victims don't realize that they're at such a high risk. Sometimes they are in a situation where they can't get out on their own and they need assistance. Sometimes it takes several attempts to get the people the help that they really need. But I think critically important is the fact that law enforcement through this tool actually can see which offenders are really serious offenders and are at a high risk of seriously injuring or killing someone. And they make discretionary decisions all the time. This gives them more information to help them make better decisions.
When you say discretionary decisions, what do you mean?
Well, I'll give you an example. My cousin, Mandy, was murdered just over a year ago by her ex-husband. In the days leading up to her murder, he showed up at her work and he made some threats against her and caused a scene, and law enforcement was called, but they didn't conduct a lethality assessment on her. They didn't ask the questions that would help them know that she was at risk, and so they let him go. Instead of arresting him or doing something else with him, they let him go, and they didn't provide her the help and the support that she needed. And by the time they realized that she was really at risk of serious risk, and this guy was a serious offender, she was already dead.
Do you think the lethality assessment could have saved her life?
It's hard to say, but I know it does save lives. It absolutely does save lives. And through this lethality assessment, now that every law enforcement officer in the state is required to ask these questions in these situations, we have found some really serious offenders who law enforcement maybe didn't realize that they were such a problem, or that they'd had past behaviors that were very, very concerning. You know, when you get pulled over on I-15 in northern Utah and then pulled over again in southern Utah, they can see that maybe you got a warning or you had a seatbelt violation, but we didn't have anything like that statewide for domestic violence, or specifically for intimate partner violence. And now we do. Law enforcement has this tool that they can use so that they have better information, the criminal justice system has better information, and our victims are more safe and secure and have the protection and the support that they need.
With this information, do you think this will also better equip our state for addressing, you mentioned the significant amount of people who right now are in unsafe situations, how we can prevent that in the future?
I think a lot of it is bringing awareness to the issue. In my cousin's case, and I know that she's not alone, there were multiple incidents leading up to this over the years leading up to her death, where law enforcement was called, and nobody really took her all that seriously. He would make threats, she would be upset about it, nobody would do anything. And I think it's really important for us to understand what intimate partner violence is, how serious it can be, what the warning signs are, and do our best to support the people in our lives who may be experiencing that.
I really appreciate you opening up about this, and it's such a difficult subject. Well, what do you think she would think about the work that you're doing now?
Well, you hate anybody to be remembered for their death. But I'm really happy that we've been able to do something good because of it.
Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, thank you so much for talking about this, and we look forward to seeing what else comes from these lethality assessments. All right, before we go, we want to show you a very important resource right here on your screen. This is Utah's Domestic Violence Hotline. It connects you with a variety of resources, including shelter, legal help, maybe just someone to talk to. The Domestic Violence Coalition also says this hotline can be for abusers who are trying to break the cycle of violence. So this hotline, it's free, it's confidential, and available 24/7. So please take a picture of this number, write it down, or call right now if you or someone you know needs help. Stay with us. We'll be right back.